Hi, it's Kim from Expressions of the Universe, and I have a special treat for you tonight. We are going to review the new moon in Virgo that is coming up on September 6th of 2021 at 14 degrees, but I'm also going to show you how you can read your own chart, not only for this aspect, but also the uh, Mercury retrograde is going to be entering its shadow on this same day. And then you can apply these same techniques for any transit. You can also use some of these slides that I have in here to apply it to any transit. So we have the new moon in Virgo at 14 degrees on September 6, 2021. And I did list here on the left several time zones. You'll notice that in London and in Europe, it will be occurring on September 7th and also in the Southern Hemisphere on September 7th as well. And I took the liberty to list all of the time zones in the United States just to make it easier. I know I always say, oh, you could just figure it out, but I figured I would do this. So you want to go to astro.com. I find that that's the easiest, best way to get a chart for yourself. I am using Solar Fire, which is a professional software program that I have installed on my computer, but astro.com or AstroDNist, it will have a really lovely chart. You want to enter your date, time, and place of birth. And once you pull up your chart, you want to find out where Virgo shows up in your chart to discover the house and planets that will be highlighted by the energy of this new moon. You'll see here, the new moon is at 14 degrees of Virgo. And when we have a new moon, the sun will be conjunct or right next to that moon. If it were a full moon, the sun would be completely opposite on the other side of the earth and or of the heavens, casting the shadow, highlighting that full moon. But because they're together, the sun's rays actually block out the moon, so that's why you don't see it. It's that shadow effect. Also, I want to take note that Mars will be conjunct within 10 degrees of these, so that would tell me that we are going to have some action during this time. New moons are about new beginnings. That's my belief anyway. We're getting rid of things, the old, and we're bringing in the new. We're rebirthing something. We're transforming something. So this is the chart for this new moon, and I will get into it. You can see that there is a lot of activity here. I believe there's a grand trine in air. We also have a yod. We also have the hammer of Thor occurring here between Pluto, Vesta, and Ceres. There's so much happening on this day. And also, too, this is where Mercury is entering its shadow in Libra, 10 degrees of Libra, and it will be moving back to 25 degrees of Libra, where Venus is currently occupying. So moving on, once you look up your chart and find the house that Virgo occupies, for in this case, it's the 6th house. Ironically, that is also the house that Virgo typically occupies. But, you could have Virgo over here in the 12th house or the 11th, any of the houses. You have to see, and I'm going to show you a chart example that does not have Virgo in the 6th house. I believe it's in the 5th, and you'll see how I read that chart. But once you look up your chart and find the house that Virgo occupies, look for the planets that are also within that house, because they will also add flavor to this new moon for you. You want to also look at your sixth house, because that is where Virgo normally rules. And you'll want to look and see, are there any planets in that sixth house? So it's like you're building a story here. All right, now, because Mercury and Chiron rule Virgo, you're also going to want to look and see, where are they in your chart? In this case, Mercury is in Libra, so I'm going to be adding the flavor of Libra, adding the flavor. This is also in the sixth house, so I don't have to get the information of another house. I could stay there. And where's Chiron? Chiron is over here in Aries in the 12th house. So, with that being said, those are the ruling planets of Virgo. So we are also gaining energy and information from those planets. These are the areas that will have a shift from the new moon. All right. So in this case, I know that I will have 12th house themes with Chiron. There's going to be a healing here. Chiron is the great teacher. He is the wounded healer. So it's in Aries. So it would be about the self. It would be about the things that we're not telling people, the secrets. And then Mercury is our communication, and it's also our mind. With it being in Libra, that's balance and harmony within the communication, fairness that is going on. And it's sixth house. So it is our health, it's our daily routine, it's the details in our lives. It's also our pets. It's our service. Sometimes it's the job that we do just to pay the bills, not a career per se, but it's like that day-to-day thing that we're doing. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. Okay, so I also made this slide for you, and you can always pause it and take notes, and I'll flip back and forth. So if you had, well, let me back up. So I listed all of the signs, their ruling planets, and the basic energy of what you will find in those signs and planets. So like, let's go back to where Chiron is. So we have Chiron here in the 12th house, and it's in Aries. All right. So we know I didn't list Chiron as a planet, but he is the wounded healer. He's the great teacher. Those wounds are usually things that trigger us, things that we've buried deep down. It comes from past lives. That is also 12th house. And then Aries is about the self. So if I want to think about, well, you know, what am I going to learn here? I'm looking at Aries. So it's about the self, the ego, the I am, our action, and our energy, how we move. We could also take a look at, because of that, where's Mars? You know, like you can just keep building and building. Now also, Mercury is in Libra. So we're going to look at the Libra themes: balance, harmony, beauty, fairness, relationships, marriages. So I hope you get that. Go back to the new moon is in Virgo. It's in the 6th house. And this is this for Philadelphia. It'll be slightly different based on the time zone that you're living in. So pretty much if you are central mountain time zone, it may shift a little bit. But I think it'll pretty much stay in the 6th house. If you are in Europe, it might be up at the 7th house, or I'm sorry, or maybe even the 5th house, you know, so there could be a slight shift. This is where the collective energy is for the entire planet. based on my view coming from Philadelphia, that this is the energy. So we would be focusing on the body, health, routine, details, pets, job, or service. Now, to make it a little deeper, here are the houses, and I do have more than one slide to show you. So if you wanted to find out, for example, I had a client the other day, not even a client, a follower of expressions of the universe, say, hey, I have Libra in the 12th house asking about the Mercury retrograde, and I have the moon there. Okay. So I spoke to this person about the 12th house themes. All right. And these are just some minor keywords. You know, it does go a lot deeper. You can Google more keywords or more essence of each house. I just wanted to give you a general idea. And then you take into account this person had the moon there. So the moon, it's about the home, nurturing, ancestors, roots, protection, sensitivity, emotions, intuition. So all of those things would play in. And then, of course, the Libra theme. So you want to take the planet and the sign. I know that may sound confusing. But anyway, we're going to go back to this new moon in Virgo. It's in the 6th house, just for example. So the 6th house is work, health, service, self-improvement. Like I said, it's your health, daily routine, the details in your life, the day-to-day. We can get a little deeper with that. And it's nutrition and duty. So with this being the collective chart, everybody in the entire world, that's your theme. This is time for all of us to clean up our health and nutrition. You know, with Mercury right up here and also going into shadow, there's going to be a lot of contemplation about communications around these issues. And I don't know if it'll come out during that time. This shadow period is September 6th through the 27th, when it will enter the actual retrograde. And it won't leave the post-shadow until the first week of November. So this is a pretty long retrograde. But there's going to be a huge highlight on these themes. And I really think health is going to be at the forefront. Health and nutrition, our duty to the world. Self-improvement. Now, think about Mercury going into that shadow. That's going to also build on this. So we're really taking from now, September, until the first week of November to really go within and work on all of these topics, including our communication, our mindset, our thinking, speaking, the things that we're learning. You know, we may be unlearning some things and starting to think in a different fashion. We'll see. The 14 degrees of this new moon says to me, it's talking about the way that we love ourselves, figuring out where it is that we belong. I know that the world is really more divided than ever. I didn't think that that could happen, but it is. And it is surrounding communications. It is surrounding health and nutrition and well-being of the entire planet. So those are hot topics. We have Mars that is conjunct this, meaning it's right next to it. It is 10 degrees away, 10 degrees of orb. That's what that's called. So it's almost You know, depending, some astrologers will only use a 3-degree orb, 5-degree orb, 8-degree orb, or up to 15 degrees. Either way, Mars is adding some energy here. Mars is the planet of war. He is action. He wants things to get done. He wants to set this off in a new direction, but I can expect that there will be some aggression around these 6th house issues. So we go back to the Virgo, the body, health, routine, details, our pets, jobs and service. A lot of that's going to be highlighted in the media for, you know, not only the next couple months, but, you know, probably the next year. Now, this is actually my chart. So I figured I would pull up another chart and see how this would play out. I did not put the transits here, but we know that the new moon and the sun are in Virgo. So in this case, it's in the 5th house. And it's going to be, so imagine the new moon and the sun down here and Mars. And they are all activating my Uranus, my Pluto, and my Mars. So something huge is happening in the 5th house. So what does that mean? Let's go back to the 5th house. It's creativity, recreation, procreation, entertainment, pleasure, romance, children, and play. It's also joy and happiness. So you would line that up with Leo. Self-pride, leadership, spotlight, power, creativity, joy, happiness, children, romance, and strength. All right, so I know that something new is happening there, with it also activating Uranus. It's going to be a big surprise. Something will be ending with Pluto, but turning into, transforming into something new. And there's going to be action taken on my part. So with it being in the 5th house of creativity, this is a new creative project for me, actually. You know, trying to do a slide to teach you guys how to read your own chart. So maybe it's something like that. I also want to take a look at where is Mercury, because Mercury rules Virgo. So Mercury is here in the 1st house. The 1st house is about the self. Here we go. Subjective self, awareness, personality, the mask, the identity, self-image, as projected to others, self-expression, outer expression. And then it's the I am, it's self-awareness, our appearance, outward, and personality. So with it being Mercury energy, it's the mind, communication, commerce, the written word, learning, day trips, siblings, the neighborhood. So you can flip back and forth through this. It's Mercury is Gemini. It's also that Virgo. And then I want to see where's Chiron, because Chiron also rules Virgo. So we've got Chiron up here at 22 degrees in Pisces, in it's like on the cusp of the 11th and 12th house, depending on what house system you use. That's where that would show up. I really kind of thought that my Chiron was in the 11th house, which would be, maybe it's a little bit of both, the 11th and 12th. So group involvement, clubs, collective endeavors, friendships, humanitarian ideals, global awareness. But it's also service to humanity, self-transcendence, self-sacrifice, retreats from the world. Well, that's easy for me to do. Unacknowledged or repressed parts of the self. So those are the things that I'm healing. You kind of get that? So that's how I look at that, especially when I'm reading a chart. Oh, didn't want to go that far yet, because we will talk about the Mercury retrograde shadow period, because I have an assignment for you. But I want to go back to this new moon chart. We have so much activity happening here. I really want to point out the Pluto Eris square, because that's going to be playing a huge role throughout next year. This is, death, endings, transformation, rebirth in Capricorn, the governments, the old regime, religion, corporations, control. Eris, she is that goddess of chaos and discord. And, she's riding right alongside of Uranus. They are making some huge changes in the world. With it being in Taurus, it's like our structures. It's the ground, it's the earth, it is the planet itself. But there are humanitarian qualities there because of Uranus, being within 10 degrees of orb. I want to pay special attention September 16th, when it is Yom Kippur. The sun will move into 24 degrees of Virgo, and it will be making a direct aspect to these, which symbolizes a global atonement for something. Something huge is going to come out following the Yom Kippur, and it will be right before Mercury goes retrograde on September 27th. It'll be right in the middle of that shadow period. So I'm really wondering, are we going to hear something huge, or do we have to wait until after the first week of November when things start to come out? Another thing I want to point out, we have Uranus in conjunct. It's exactly at 14 degrees. So this also too, you could see the direct line right here. It's going to play some huge part. This new moon is making major, major shifts throughout the world. I could go on and on about these different transits, everything that's happening, but I just wanted to focus and highlight on this. Just know that we are going through an intense time period. That doesn't mean that it's going to be dismal. It is what you make it. And so just know that these huge growing pains, huge shifts that are happening for the betterment of the entire world. What else can I talk about? I kind of think that's it. Jupiter, right on the ascendant. I really just wanted to point out the major players here. And that is what I am saying. So let's move on to the Mercury retrograde shadow. All right, so Mercury will enter its shadow of retrograde in Libra at 10 degrees, and it will travel to 25 degrees. Mercury is our communication, it's our mind, it is our thoughts. That's why I have all of these brain waves here. Using the same technique for the new moon, you want to now look and see where is Libra in your chart. All right, so we're going to go back to my chart example, and there's Libra here in the 6th house. So Mercury will be transiting that, the 6th house, communication surrounding 6th house themes, okay? Also look to see where Venus is in your chart, as Venus is the ruler of Libra. So I'm going to go back to that chart. Venus is here in Gemini in the 2nd house. I'm also looking to see where my own Mercury is at 4 degrees of Gemini in the first house because that is being activated. So I will be thinking of things revolving around the first house, the sixth house, and the second house. All right. And then I'm going to go and look up, well, the first house. So what are those themes? And then what are the second house themes? And then again, what are the sixth house themes? So those are the things you're going to look for in your own chart. And just to maybe make it a little, break it down a little bit more, September 6th through the 27th. Here's your assignment. You want to begin a journal of each day's activities with yourself, others, the energy, and the emotions. You don't have to write a 5-page story. You could just make a couple little notes of things that stood out for you each day. The reason why I'm asking you to do this is because during this time period, this is when Mercury will be moving from 10 degrees to 25 degrees. This is where the retrograde starts, and it will be moving back to 10 degrees. And then it has to go back over that area again. So it's like a 3-swipe event where we're learning this lesson. So right now, between September 6th and the 27th, we're getting the clues to what our lessons of this retrograde are, regardless of where those houses, where those planets are showing up in your chart. You don't even have to pull your chart in order to do this little lesson. If you're just paying attention to your day-to-day activities, think of Mercury being your thoughts, your communications. It is technology, it is travel, but it's in Libra, so it has to do with your relationships. And this is your relationship to everything in the entire world. Animate, inanimate, people, pets, things, objects. You're really going to be taking a look at, like healthy relationships, healthy, unhealthy, things that maybe you want to get rid of. You also want to look and pay special attention to the things or the people that are triggering you during this time, because that is going to have a huge lesson. We're in this new moon. You're wanting to start things new, brand new. We're getting rid of things that no longer serve, but you're not doing it during this time. You're only reviewing, you're only taking a look at these things to evaluate them during this time period, because you'll be making the decision at a later time after the retrograde is over. Like I said here, these will be your lessons for this retrograde. The purpose of the retrograde is to retreat, rest, recharge, restore, reevaluate, and review all of the things that are happening during this time period. That's why I'm asking you to keep a journal. A lot of times when I want to, if I didn't make a journal, because, honestly, who has time for that? I will go back through my phone camera and look at pictures that I took or pictures that I saved during those time periods, because it will really tell me what was going on in my life. But that's for me, because I'm a very visual person. And then with the Expressions of the Universe platform, I'm constantly saving material that maybe I could use at a later date. So I think that's the end of my presentation. And I guess that will be it. Let me just go back to the very beginning here. We'll just review real quick. The new moon in Virgo. This is the chart. Here are your instructions for pulling your own chart. Give you a little breakdown of what to do, where to look for things. the energy of the signs and the planets. You can Google this information if you want more information. This is also the astrological house wheel and themes. This is a little more in depth. You can find so many resources. Like you can even Google, for example, we know that, say for example, I have Venus in my second house, but it's in Gemini. So I can even Google Venus second house Gemini, and you can get information on that if you really want to get in depth in that. This is just my chart example. And then, of course, the Mercury Retrograde Shadow information and your assignment. I will have more on this retrograde, possibly. The only other thing that I'm going to leave you with is come back for some more weekly wisdom and cards for every sign for this new moon and the cards of the week. I'm going to put that in a separate video. Feel free to come back and use this video anytime you need. Share it with your friends that are interested in astrology. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. And I really hope that you enjoyed this. So have a great new moon, and blessings to all of you.